Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So the subject of today's video is something that I've kind of been hinting at for a really long time. For some of the people who I've spoken to more closely that I've gotten to know through this channel, they've known about it. And I guess basically the point is that I've left Google after 8 months. So I'm going to share kind of my thoughts and reasons for doing this, kind of what I hope to accomplish now that I've left. And yeah, ultimately, we'll just go into my decision-making process. So to kind of preface this video, I'd like to share that my experience working at Google is my own only. I'm sure that people on drastically different teams and organizations have potentially had a more positive experience. And yeah, I mean, it's not like I was just completely messing around. I actually had a really nice performance review rating that most new Googlers aren't able to get. So, I would like to kind of point that out there before everyone's like, oh, you just didn't like Google because you suck at coding or something like that. So yeah, I've got kind of 3-4-ish reasons that I want to talk about in order to kind of justify my decisions, and yeah, that's kind of all there is to it. So the first is I didn't find the work that I particularly was doing very interesting. So my team, without going into too much detail, we were basically just moving around a bunch of marketing data from one database to another, and centralizing it in our team's data warehouse. What that meant for me personally was that I was writing a bunch of data pipelines pretty much exclusively in SQL, and at the end of the day I didn't really find it that challenging. A lot of people will kind of go to Google or go to a FAANG company because they want to work at major scale, right? With petabytes or exabytes of data, and in my case we never really just worked with that amount such that there was any really performance related challenges. So I didn't really feel like I was learning too much and growing too much as an engineer. And of course, for your entry-level job, the most important thing that you can possibly do is not necessarily find a niche, but certainly kind of garner some skills that you can take on with you in the rest of your career. And at least for now, I kind of felt that, my job, like I said, mostly just writing SQL, I wasn't getting as much out of it. Okay, so number two, and this kind of pertains to number one and how I wasn't learning as much, is that a lot of the technologies that I was using in my job, they're already made for you. So when you work at a Google or you work at a Facebook or you work at an Amazon, they have an internal tech stack, proprietary technology that they've made in years prior, and they pretty much expect more or less that you're going to be using that, right? It wouldn't be smart to reinvent the wheel, and I don't expect that I should have to reinvent the wheel, but at the same time, because, kind of all of this work has been extracted away from you, right? So for example, when I was running a massive SQL query, they basically had an existing engine that would do that and run it over these major clusters in a distributed, reliable fashion, so much so that I just didn't really get to learn about the ins and outs because it was already done for me. So because of these super high-level abstractions that, worked really well, I felt like I wasn't really able to get into the weeds as much and learn. Okay, so the third point I kind of want to talk about is politics. So this is a term that I didn't really understand before getting into a full-time job. I didn't know what it meant, and I would see it everywhere, especially on places like Blind, and not really know what people were talking about too much. But as far as I can tell, to me at least, Google, I was under the impression, had a very strong engineering culture, and coming out of it, I still do feel that way. But I think that politics gets in the way of that. So what I kind of mean by politics is that there's kind of perverse incentives in how engineers should perform, because everyone at the end of the day is evaluated by this term impact, where impact is, how much money you've made or created for the company. And when you put everything in terms of how much money is generated for the company, there's a few issues with that. So the first is that a lot of tools just aren't directly generating money for the company, right? If you have some sort of internal tool and only other Googlers are using it, you're not just like generating money there. So it's hard to evaluate performance. And I just think that not everyone is on a level playing field in terms of how they can be evaluated by their upper managers. The second thing is that I think it detracts from engineering culture because as opposed to, say, making the code a lot better, doing a refactor, making sure there aren't any, edge conditions that come up, as engineers we're taught to prioritize things that, improve the bottom line of the business. And that makes complete sense, but it does also lead to a lot of technical debt. It leads to poor documentation. And just in general, if I go to my manager and say, hey, I want to work on this long project to really fix up our code base, improve a lot of the worst aspects of it, and ultimately make everyone else's life easier, it's not necessarily super easy to get approval for that, because at the end of the day, I'm not creating any impact as measured by dollars. Even if I'm, saving other people engineering hours, it's a kind of a harder sell than to just go ahead and be able to say, well, here, I'm going to invent a new product and it's going to make us $10 million every single quarter. Okay, so those are kind of the three main points that I've spoken about for motivating me to look elsewhere. But I guess that kind of begs the question, what am I doing now? Did I just quit Google and not have a job and trying to do YouTube full-time with 7,000 subscribers? No, I am not doing that, though that would be fun. I basically, was looking for another position where I could learn, be challenged, be in a space that I wanted to be in. And, that kind of opens the floor up to many things at the end of the day. But at least how the chips fell is that I'll probably be ending up joining a quantitative finance company. At least for now, I'm not going to give any more specific details than that for a couple of reasons. It's obviously a lot smaller than Google, and so, I no longer have the shield of being at such a massive company, right? If I say and do stupid things, it means that I might face more repercussions. And, so I'm not going to put this on my LinkedIn for now, but that is, what I'm doing. So what do I want to get across by making this video? Well, I guess, and I kind of touched upon this in the Day of My Life video, I think that a lot of younger people, such as myself, especially when you're in college studying, look at big tech, look at the perks that it gives you, the status and the money, and relatively speaking, it seems pretty perfect. There are very few jobs that kind of are so well-rounded, giving you such a relatively normal life, while also, people will, I guess, respect you for where you're working. It's a great name to have on your resume, and the pay is good. But at least in my opinion, I do felt like in my current situation, I had to sacrifice kind of some of my intellectual pursuits and interests. And personally, I don't really think any amount of money and or status is going to convince me to do that, at least in the current state of things. If I had a family, maybe it would be a different situation. I'd care more about, going to my wife and kids than I do, just about learning. But at least for right now, I want to put myself in the best possible spot to just kind of learn new things about computer science, distributed systems, and other things like that, because I do really enjoy all this stuff. It should be pretty clear from my channel that, I'm doing this kind of just out of self-interest, right? Obviously it's nice to get some following, a little bit of self-validation, but I think I would do this regardless. So that's kind of all for the video, guys. I appreciate all of you watching this. This is a big next step in my life. And I'm going to be doing a little bit of traveling soon, probably for the next 2 months or so. It's kind of related to my new job. And so as a result of that, I'm not exactly sure how often I can post. I'm going to try and do my best to do once a week, schedule a couple of videos. But, at the end of the day, don't forget about me. Within 2 months, I'll be back to normal. And so again, thank you all for watching this channel, sticking with me through my first position. And hopefully the future treats me well. So I'll see you guys soon.